Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving straight into a story that really ripped through the late night landscape. We're talking about the sudden, indefinite suspension of Jimmy Kimmel live.
Yeah, a huge story.
And this wasn't, a planned break. This was fast. One of late night's most, let's say, polarizing voices pulled right after a pretty explosive monologue. So our mission today is clear. We need to sort through the sources, look at the immediate fallout, especially with the affiliate stations, understand the unprecedented political and regulatory pressure,
hmm
and see what the reaction from other hosts tells us about maybe the future of political comedy.
And what's so fascinating, I think, is how quickly this escalated beyond just, a network saying we need to pause. We're really looking at a live case study here.
Mm.
It pits free speech against media responsibility, against, frankly, powerful political interests.
Right.
So when you zoom out, the core tension we need to explore is this.
Yeah.
Was Kimmel's suspension a kind of justified corporate accountability?
Hmm.
Did his comments cross a line, especially during a tragedy? Or was it more like political censorship, achieved through leveraging the structure of broadcasting? That's the debate.
Okay, so let's go back. We need to unpack the inciting incident to really get the speed of the reaction. The timeline starts with the tragedy on September 10th, the assassination of conservative activist Charlie Kirk.
A shocking event, obviously.
Definitely. And the suspension followed Kimmel's monologue where he directly criticized how certain groups, specifically MAGA organizations, even former President Trump, were responding. The sources suggest his comments were about the, let's say, political weaponization of the event, questioning the sincerity of some immediate political responses.
And that lit the fuse.
Yeah.
The backlash wasn't just comments online. It translated almost instantly into structural action.
That's the key part, isn't it?
Absolutely. This wasn't just ABC quietly deciding something behind closed doors. This felt like a public dismantling of the show's way of reaching viewers. Our sources show affiliate station groups, big ones, Nexstar and Sinclair, immediately said, we're done. We are not airing this show.
Wow, immediately.
Immediately. And you might hear Nexstar and Sinclair and think, well, ABC's the network, right? What's the big deal?
Yeah, explain that leverage.
Well, these groups own hundreds of local stations. Hundreds. All across the country. They're the pipeline. They deliver network shows to millions of homes. So when both Nexstar and Sinclair say they're out, it's not just a statement. It's an instant crippling loss of distribution.
And ad revenue, presumably.
Critically, ad revenue, yeah. It's like pulling the foundation out from under the show overnight.
So that's the takeaway right there. The affiliates pulling out acted like a kind of corporate veto. It shows that local broadcasters, just through controlling distribution, have immense power over national commentary.
Makes a return almost impossible in the short term, that kind of rejection.
Exactly. That's structural collapse.
And that's why the show was suspended indefinitely. Not technically canceled forever, maybe, but that swift, coordinated action from affiliates,
Yeah.
it just puts ABC in an incredibly tough spot. It created huge immediate leverage against them.
Oh, okay, so the affiliates act. But then the story jumps again, right? From a media issue to a national political flashpoint. Because the pressure didn't stop with the broadcasters.
No, it didn't. This is where it gets really complex. Powerful political and regulatory figures got involved.
You mean the FCC?
Exactly. Sources show the SEC chair himself weighed in, publicly criticizing Kimmel.
Okay, why is that such a big deal?
Well, the FCC regulates broadcasters. For the chair, the chief regulator, to publicly criticize specific content from a major show. That changes the whole dynamic. It shifts the conversation away from just corporate choice, towards implied regulatory guidance, or at least that's how it could be perceived.
It definitely raises the stakes.
Hugely. It makes that question accountability or censorship much harder to brush aside. When a key regulator seems to align with the political critics, it suggests the network might face more than just angry viewers. It hints at, potential bureaucratic headaches down the line.
That sounds chilling, actually. So this regulatory comment basically poured gasoline on the fire, which led to those two really distinct sides of the debate you mentioned earlier. Can you lay those out?
Sure. On one side, you have the supporters of the suspension. Their argument is essentially that Kimmel's comments were deeply insensitive. They felt that criticizing and politicizing the tragedy, especially the reactions of the victims' political allies, just crossed a line of public decency.
Right, especially so soon after the event.
Exactly. The argument is that a moment like that demands a pause, some respect, and he didn't provide that. He jumped straight to politics.
Okay, that's one side. What about the critics?
Their focus is almost entirely on the precedent this sets. They're worried. They argue that if political pressure, amplified by regulators and affiliates, can silence a top late-night host, basically overnight, then that sets a dangerous precedent for all political satire. If you can lose your platform that quickly for sharp commentary, doesn't matter if it's left or right-leaning, what space does that leave for, robust political discussion on mainstream TV?
That fear of a chilling effect, you can almost feel it. This whole thing really is a stark example, isn't it? How fast political opinion, corporate mechanics, and regulatory weight can just converge and dictate programming decisions.
It really demonstrates that making powerful groups angry can have immediate structural consequences, not just bad press, but actual operational consequences.
So the pressure was immense. Political, corporate. You had to wonder how that felt for the other hosts. The Stephen Colberts, the Seth Meyers, even Jimmy Fallon, they're all in that same space.
Yeah, that anxiety, you absolutely see it reflected in the reactions, particularly, like you said, Jimmy Fallon's comments on The Tonight Show.
Right, he shared that story, that anecdote. It felt really human amidst all the noise, waking up to 100 texts from his dad, apologizing because he thought Fallon's show got canceled.
Yeah, it's such a relatable moment of confusion.
Oh.
Kind of underscores how jarring the news was, even for people close to the industry.
Right.
It lets you see past the high-stakes drama for a second to the real people just trying to figure out what happened.
So that was the personal side. What about his official stance?
Well, that's where it gets interesting. He walked a very careful line. On one hand, he showed clear solidarity. He called Kimmel a decent, funny, and loving guy. Said he hoped Kimmel would be back soon.
That's important coming from a peer.
Definitely. It provides that human support, sort of counteracts the coldness of the corporate action.
But it felt cautious. He didn't exactly slam the decision or talk about censorship.
Precisely. He was very careful. He actually said on air something like, "To be honest with you all, I don't know what's going on, and no one does."
Ah, okay.
So by stressing he didn't have all the details, he could offer that emotional support without jumping into the political or regulatory crossfire himself.
Smart and maybe telling.
I think it reflects that general anxiety in the industry. Maybe a feeling of, if I stick my neck out too far, will I be next? It's supportive, but definitely reserved.
So looking at the big picture of the late night reaction, Fallon's approach kind of shows the power of peer support, even if it's measured. When one host gets pulled, others speaking up, even cautiously, puts more pressure back on the network, draws more attention to those structural forces, the affiliates, the FCC.
Yeah, it makes it an industry issue, not just an ABC problem. It broadens the spotlight.
Okay, let's try to tie these threads together. Can you summarize the key forces at play here?
Sure. I think it boils down to 3 layers. First, the spark. Kimmel's remarks. Sharp, immediate commentary on the response to a national tragedy. Contentious stuff.
Right.
Second, the structural hammer. That immediate decisive pressure from affiliate groups like Nexstar and Sinclair, basically yanking the show off air for millions, then amplified by the FCC chair's public criticism.
Okay. And third?
Third, the industry reaction.
Yeah.
Symbolized maybe by Fallon's cautious solidarity. It confirmed the sort of fear and uncertainty surrounding the whole thing.
That structural pressure really feels like the defining element here.
Yeah.
So we circle back to that central question, that tension we started with. Was Jimmy Kimmel suspended for genuinely crossing a line of decency that demanded accountability? Or was it because powerful groups, corporate, political, regulatory, used their structural leverage to silence commentary they didn't like?
And the answer to that, or rather how the industry interprets the answer to that, that's going to set a standard moving forward. It impacts everyone doing political comedy or commentary.
Definitely something for all of us to think about.
Which leads to maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. If this combination of affiliate power, the threat of political interference shown by regulators weighing in, if that's strong enough to indefinitely suspend one of TV's biggest shows, practically overnight, what does that tell us about how vulnerable political satire really is in mainstream media today? Does the speed of this whole collapse suggest that maybe the traditional media gatekeepers, the networks themselves, are less secure than we assumed? And that maybe localized focused political pressure is now becoming the truly decisive factor, something to consider?